Our next poem is South Carolina Morning by Yusef komunyakaa. So the poem starts out with talking about a lady's dress and hat are teasing the sky, and then outside a country store or country depot, she could be a harlot or a saint on Sunday morning. So I thought that was interesting. I compared the red dress and hat teasing the sky's level-headed blue to like the sunrise, when the sun is just peeking over the horizon, and you can just it's just making the sky look really red, really, it goes from being blue to being really red and really pretty.
And I at first took that as a bold and energetic woman contrasting the sky, but after talking about it with Bekka, that's kind of what made sense to both of us, was this metaphor for sunrise.
And then it was interesting, it talks about how she could be a harlot or a saint on Sunday. A harlot is a whore or a prostitute, so those are complete, it's juxtaposed. It could be either one or the other. She has the ability to choose. And then it talks about how the next stanza is, we know Hopper could slant light till it falls, and then on our faces she waits for a tall blue singer whose 12-string is hours out of hock, for a Pullman porter with a pigskin wallet, bulging with greenbacks, who stepped out of porgy at intermission. This is. So those, I took it as a description of this lady, who we've also compared to the sun, is her ideal picture of a perfect man. He's rich, he's a musician, even if he's not that good of a musician. He dresses well, he works on the railroads, has a lot of money.
And even possibly just out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but who also stepped out of porgy at intermission, which is interesting because it makes you ask, why did he step out of this play that was, it was a play in Charleston, it's about street beggars. And so it made me think about, why did he step out of this play? Was he a street beggar at one point? Did he not like how they portrayed? Or, there's a lot of questions that could be asked about why he stepped out.
Mm-hmm. And then, we kind of thought this could be, again, going back to the sun as it was rising, and the lady comparing her to the sun. It could be her waiting for her perfect man. Also, the sun waiting for the moon, because they could be contrasted as they're perfect for each other. They work well together. They're soulmates, as one could say. And then the poem goes on. This is, and then the next stanza is, paradise made of pigment and tissue, where apples ripen into rage and lust. Well, I took the first thing I noticed out of that was where it says, where apples ripen into rage and lust. I thought of the apple from the Garden of Eden, and it tempted Adam and Eve it represents innocence, turning into rage and lust, which could have happened here.
Yeah, that overwhelming lust that Adam and Eve felt for the apple. So that was an interesting diction for komunyakaa. And then also at the beginning of that stanza, the paradise made of pigment and tissue. That was an interesting way to describe paradise, because pigment and tissue is a pretty bland description.
Mm-hmm.
He could have used a lot of different imagery choices there, but instead he just said pigment and tissue.
Mm-hmm.
And tissue is almost a little hard to figure out what he's meaning by that. So I thought that was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it could have been maybe a paradise made of pigment and tissue, paradise on earth, as opposed to paradise up in heaven or something. And then the last two stanzas, in a quick glance beyond skin color, she's his muse, his wife. The same curves to her stance, the same breasts beneath the summer cloth. And I was really confused first reading it. It said a quick glance beyond skin color, and I thought, quick glance, you look at what you see, you don't look at what you think, you don't look at what you know, you look at what you see. So the opposites there were really interesting.
Mm-hmm. So he's kind of saying in a quick glance, other than the skin color, mm-hmm. she's his muse, his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So
and a muse is a sister or a sister goddess. So I thought that was interesting. It was the sun is hot and bright, demanding, but the moon, you think of quiet, calm, and dark. It's nighttime when the moon comes out. And then it goes on in the last stanza, the repetition of the same, when it says the same curves to her stance, the same breasts beneath summer cloth. The moon, if you compared it back again, the woman and the man to the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon are like the same shape. They have different purposes, but they're the same shape. They're the same idea of what they're used.
And that's why the same was repeated twice in that one stanza.